Amish communities have perfected the technique of food preservation without refrigerators, electricity, or even contemporary canning jars. While most modern Americans toss almost 40% of their food, their key is 5 time-tested techniques keeping vegetables fresh for months, sometimes tasting just as wonderful in April and May as they did in September. These are not only classic survival skills, living, breathing traditions, forgotten knowledge that might rescue your crop should the power ever go out or supply lines fail. In Amish villages, food preservation goes beyond mere post-harvest activity. This is a year-round pulse, a way of life handed down through the years. While the rest of the world depends on freezers and artificial preservatives, the Amish follow a seasonal preservation cycle closely aligned with nature. It is clever, quick, and wonderfully basic. Actually, the calendar begins in January, much ahead of any planting. Around their worn-out almanacs, families assemble to begin designing the garden for the next year. These early conversations concern ensuring food will be available all year long, not only about choosing what to raise. They stagger crops so veggies ripen in waves rather than all at once, allowing people to store smaller portions over time without overwhelming themselves. Many Amish gardeners use a lunar calendar, thinking that above-ground crops produce better under the waxing moon, and that root vegetables grow best when planted during a declining moon. One old Amish proverb is "plant by the moon, preserve by the need." 2. These identical moon phases guide their choice of timing for beginning preservation. And kids take note of everything in nature, not just the moon. Spring showers? Time to get going with the planting. First frost? Time to bring in the last tender vegetables. Even the sounds of birds and insects indicate when it comes, time to gather particular foods. One bird might let them know that strawberry season is upon us. Seeing a certain insect could indicate that sauerkraut from cabbage is about ready. Every season has a preservation concentration of its own. Early greens and herbs should be dried in spring. Summer is for juiced berries preservation and cucumber fermentation into pickles. Fall is largely about drying maize and storing root vegetables. Winter is time to relax, organise and savour the kept abundance. Everything revolves on timing. Amish households, for instance, avoid mould by not hanging herbs to dry until the humidity falls below 60%. And since dried bulbs keep far longer, they will wait for 3 dry days before gathering onions. It is science acquired over many generations of observation, not superstition. Not one thing is thrown away. When sweet corn ripens in late summer, one may spend an entire day surrounded by it. Some are eaten raw. A little is dried for soups. Even the husks are recycled to wrap other foods or create doormats. Their techniques vary too, depending on the season. Quick fermenting performs best in the humid summer. Perfect for dehydrating fruits and vegetables is the dry fall, and unheated sheds naturally act as refrigerators in the winter. Possibly the most potent element, though, is the community is working on this. Families do not accomplish it on their own. Should one neighbour's apple trees be overflowing, the entire community comes to assist in harvest, and everyone benefits. One Amish family knows their neighbours will be there for them when it comes time to gather a mountain of cabbage, while they are occupied sorting baskets of apples. The Amish preservation system is beautiful in that it is always changing and stems from a community. Though they seem to be mired in the past, the Amish food calendar is not locked in time. It has been handed down and polished over many years. Every family makes changes depending on their unique land, climate, and resources. It responds rather than is rigid. Nature changes annually, and the Amish method also evolves. These days we depend on smartphone apps simply to remind ourselves when to water a houseplant. The Amish have been working off a seasonal rhythm based on 300 years. Guess what? Their food keeps all winter without any single software upgrade. The Amish face one of the toughest challenges in food preservation as autumn draws to an end. and the last pumpkins arrive from the fields, bumper crops, when nature grants you far more food than you expected. Imagine this: you sow 6 zucchini hoping for a meagre crop. Then the weather is ideal, and you find you have enough zucchini to last the entire county. The Amish know just what to do with that outstanding crop. Unlike contemporary homes allowing surplus produce to spoil in the refrigerator, the Amish have mechanisms in place to handle unexpected plenty. The custom of burst fruits is among the most touching. Those in need, especially the elderly or anybody unable to personally cultivate a garden, are given the burst selections from a crop. It is not only about food, it is about decency, respect, and looking out for one another. Once the community shares the extra, preservation starts to take front stage. Families could get up before dawn to begin sorting batches of green beans or cucumbers that would not wait another day. Fast treatments like salt brining stop decomposition quickly, buying time until more lasting techniques like pickling or fermenting may be carried out. Get too many carrots or potatoes? They walk into the root cellar. Just from the natural insulation of the ground, a traditional Amish root cellar keeps between 32 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit all winter long. No electricity is required. Enough potatoes in these subterranean pantries, up to 1,000 pounds, would feed a large family till spring. Crates of well-packed vegetables have layers of sand or sawdust to keep them dry and stop decay. And when even the root cellar overflows, the Amish call a frolic, a kind of large-scale food preservation celebration. 30 neighbours might show up if there is a mountain of corn to husk, get right to work, and finish it in one afternoon. Though it's work, among the younger people it's also pleasant, full of laughter, chat, and even the odd flash of romance. Community in action here. One of the fastest ways to deal with an unexpected excess is drying. A family having more apples than they can count could hang slices on threads over their wood stove. They are ready to store in 24 hours. Families may occasionally work all night to keep the drying going, as well-dried fruit can keep for up to 5 years. And where does all this dried food vanish to? Not interested in sophisticated containers or plastic tubs. The attic turns into a secret weapon surrounded by newspaper drawers maintaining everything dry and pest-free. The Amish perspective on bumper crops differs entirely from that of contemporary agriculture. Extra product often rots in the field on commercial farms if prices fall. That is unimaginable in Amish life, nevertheless. Not one thing gets thrown away. Their philosophy is built on care rather than wealth. Should there be an excess of tomatoes, they will not be thrown away. Rather, they will be turned into sauce, dried, paste made, presented as gifts, or preserved in whatever conceivable manner. For one crop, several techniques are sometimes utilised simultaneously. Assume for the moment apples arrive by wagon load. Some are kept complete in cold chambers. Some have been sliced and dried. Others find themselves pushed into cider. The rest as well, reduced to thick black apple butter by simmering. One crop, multiple applications. No waste. And last, the silent guide behind every decision is weather. Given humidity, fermentation takes front stage. If it's dry, this is a good time to dry things. Should it be frigid outdoors, food could find natural refrigeration in unheated structures. The Amish let nature guide them, and they get all year-long food in return. Sometimes the entire preservation plan of an Amish house can be changed with a wet week. When outdoor drying isn't possible, they pivot instead of panicking. They go to cold storage or ferment items. Their system is beautiful in that it is flexible, time-tested, and handed down through generations. The finest thing is also that this information is not acquired from books. Amish children study food preservation not by sitting in a classroom. They pick it from experience, standing shoulder to shoulder with their parents and grandparents, lending aid during plenty, and learning what to do when nature provides more than expected. To the Amish, a garden loaded with zucchini is a blessing rather than a burden. It's about more possibilities to connect, exchange, conserve, and prepare, not about too much food. Families and neighbours have an opportunity to unite, not just to conserve food, but also to strengthen their relationships. Consider the time freezers were first developed. Food waste seems to be extinct to some people. However, the Amish? They simply grinned and carried on doing what they had always done. Natural food preservation, season after season. No need for electricity. Most people are unaware, then, of the great part herbs play in Amish food preservation. They are natural resistors against spoiling, not only taste enhancers for meals. Then, how does it go? Many herbs, it turns out, have naturally occurring chemicals that fight rot, mould, and bacteria right away. Allow me to dissect a few. Still used in antiseptics today, thyme has thymol, which is so strong in combating bacteria. Rosemary has rosmarinic acid, which reduces oxidation, the same mechanism causing food to go bad. Sage has salvian, a chemical that meddles with the enzymes breaking down food. In an Amish herb garden, you are looking at a natural medical cabinet and preservation pantry all in one, not simply at plants, usually loaded with 15 to 20 different herbs, each with a special use. These gardens. Nor is their planting pattern arbitrary. Some herbs are planted side by side to guard one another from pests, therefore strengthening the entire garden without resorting to one chemical. Among the foundations of Amish preservation is drying herbs. Made of 70 to 80% water, fresh herbs provide the ideal habitat for bacteria. But those same herbs become rather defensive once they have dried to below 10% moisture. The Amish also do not use electric dehydrators, which makes things interesting. Rather, they hang bunches of tied herbs upside down in well-ventilated kitchens or barns. Taking 1 to 2 weeks, this long air-drying technique helps to retain more of the essential oils, the molecules in charge of both taste and preservation. Still, they fall short there as well. One fast and effective approach to prolong the life of veggies is with herb-infused vinegars. Small veggies can be months-long preserved from a basic jar of apple cider vinegar steeped with tarragon or dill. The entire process takes just 30 minutes for preparation. The outcome spans a year. Also quite dazzling are herb-infused oils. For instance, garlic oil tastes great and naturally creates a barrier to help stop mould development. When feeding a big family, brushing it on bread might provide a few extra days of freshness, which really counts. Herbal salts also abound and are another Amish staple. Usually in a 3-to-1 balance, dried herbs are crushed and combined with salt. Rubbing this combination on meat or veggies not only packs the meal with flavour and defensive chemicals, but also pulls out moisture, which germs need to flourish. While one way to double the advantage is another important factor is timing. Early in the morning is when Amish households know is the ideal time to gather herbs. The plants still retain up to 20% more essential oils at that hour than they will by noon. Those fine oils begin to evaporate as the sun rises. Amish herb gatherers are therefore usually seen out at dawn gathering by hand carefully and precisely. And there is even more. Herbal wraps. Larger leaves such as cabbage or rhubarb can be wrapped over cheeses, meats or vegetables and piled with herbs. This not only serves for preservation but also coats the food with protective oils, so preventing bacteria and pests. The Amish go beyond mere food preservation. They protect a way of life based on wisdom acquired by practical experience, simplicity, and fortitude. Every plant, every bundle, every early morning harvest reveals a tale of survival and relationship. You might have wondered what wild grapevines creeping up fences or trees were good for if you have ever wandered past them. For Amish people, those grape leaves are an ancient and remarkably powerful technique for food preservation, not only a feature of a vine. The ideal packing material from nature is grape leaves. Natural tannins and phenolic chemicals packed in these modest leaves help combat germs. Even under light conditions, grape leaves can keep cheese fresh for weeks longer than it would be otherwise when used to wrap it. But that's not all. The thin, natural wax covering the leaves also makes them somewhat impermeable, which helps control internal wrap moisture content. Grape leaves have preservation ability from this mix of physical protection and herbal components. 3 times longer freshness than one left unwrapped is achieved from a cheese covered in grape leaves. Still, it's more than just putting things in grape leaves. The technique calls for accuracy, timeliness, and thorough knowledge of plant characteristics. Usually in late spring or early summer, the leaves must be harvested at the ideal moment, just when they are completely grown but yet sensitive for maximum preservation. In Amish communities, this is usually done around the green moon, the first full moon of June, when the leaves are at their best. With one grapevine producing 500 to 800 usable leaves in one season, one can preserve hundreds of objects. Still, it's not as easy as merely tying things up. Each meal has a different wrapping design. The technique is art. For soft cheeses, for example, the leaves are stacked in a S shape, with 5 to 7 overlapping leaves forming a moisture barrier. A single leaf will serve for small veggies like fresh potatoes, but first the stem must be removed since it will produce bitterness. Meats need several layers of leaves to both slow down deterioration and impart subdued tastes. Another absolutely vital factor is temperature. The perfect storage range runs from 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Proper storage of cheese wrapped in grape leaves results in rich, complex flavours that are just unattainable with contemporary plastic wrapping. The cheese and the grape leaves naturally exchange helpful bacteria, which not only preserves the food but also produces regional flavours that mirror the particular soil where the grapes were produced. Fascinatingly, wild grape leaves preserve far better than grown ones. They're up to 15% more tannins help them combat rotting more successfully. One drawback, though, is wild leaves may taste somewhat more harsh. As such, Amish preservers combine wild and cultivated leaves. While the interior layers are from grown leaves, which provide superior taste transmission, the wild leaves are used for the outside layers where preservation is vital. The breathability of grape leaves makes them rather amazing. Unlike plastic, which holds moisture and accelerates some kinds of spoiling, grape leaves enable small air exchanges while inhibiting harmful bacteria. This produces what preservationists refer to as a living environment, one in which food is kept in a manner plastic just cannot allow. Far from conventional, the Amish method of food preservation is a lovely fusion of generations of meticulous observation, pragmatism, and nature. Every food, from wild grape leaves to herbs, is handled with attention so that nothing goes to waste, and everything is turned into something greater, better preserved, more tasty, and longer lasting. The amazing preservation ability of grape leaves transcends mere wrapping. This technique is perfectly matched to the rhythms of nature, where various leaves meet various preservation requirements all year long. Early spring calls for dandelion leaves to wrap butter. Blackberry leaves are ideal for fruit preservation by July. Grape leaves are preferred as fall arrives since, even as they dry, they stay supple and perfect for long-term storage. The Amish's great seasonal sensitivity of nature is reflected in their changing utilisation of leaves. It's about matching with the natural world, recognising which plants will be useful at every stage of the growing season, not only about preserving food. From Pennsylvania to Indiana, the grape leaf wrapping method is very identical among Amish people, implying it's a habit from before their arrival in America. Actually, similar food preservation procedures employed in Europe thousands of years ago are indicated by archaeological data, so this one is among the oldest and most durable food preservation systems in human history. Not all grape leaves, meantime, are made equally. The best preservation leaves develop under some shade rather than direct sunlight. These darkened conditions cause the plant to generate more tannins and phenolic chemicals, which are fundamental for the preservation properties of the leaves. Their somewhat darker green hue and less obvious veining help experienced gatherers choose the best leaves. Grape leaves provide another use in preservation than only wrapping. Dried and ground, they can be sprinkled between layers of root crops to form a natural barrier stopping sprouting. For instance, a thin covering of crushed leaves put between potatoes will increase their storage life by 1 month over untreated potatoes. The Amish preservation toolset goes beyond the flora. Unbelievably, many Amish villages drink alcohol, not for fun, but rather as potent food preservation. Unlike the impression that the Amish abhor alcohol, it is used deliberately. The fruit tells us what it wants to become, says an old saying, suggesting occasionally the fruit's fate is to become brandy or hard cider. 2 strong preservation liquids in a world without refrigeration. The science underlying alcohol preservation is that fermenting fruits generate ethanol, a chemical that dissolves the cell walls of bacteria and kills them rather efficiently. Any solution, including more than 14% alcohol, becomes essentially resistant to bacterial deterioration. Because of its natural antibacterial properties, alcohol became among the first and most dependable preservation techniques available in history. Fruit brandy is a pillar of Amish preservation methods. The fruits too plentiful to eat fresh or preserve, peaches, cherries, pears and berries, are turned into powerful, long-lasting beverages, far extending any other preservation technique for fragile fruits. A jar of cherries soaked in homemade cherry brandy can keep safe to consume for up to 3 years. The alcohol preservation procedure is painstaking. Fermentation vessels have to be absolutely spotless since unwelcome germs can compromise the safety and quality of the final good. Some Amish families preserve their own yeast cultures, handed down through generations, even while wild yeasts naturally appear on fruit skins and start the fermentation. These heirloom yeasts add different tastes that are particular to the preserved fruits from every family. Particularly apple cider has 2 uses for preservation. Freshly squeezed cider only lasts a few days, but when it spontaneously ferments, it turns into 4 to 6% alcohol hard cider. This technique gives several months shelf life. Cider can become apple brandy with up to 40% alcohol content, strong enough to store fruits and medicinal herbs for years by further aging and meticulous processes. Medical uses draw attention to still another crucial element of alcohol preservation. When steeped in alcohol, healing herbs that would lose strength when dried will remain therapeutic for years. This produces tinctures, herbal extracts kept in alcohol. Often kept this way are common herbs such elderberry, valerian and echinacea. Usually including 25 to 35% alcohol, a normal therapeutic tincture is just needed to extract plant chemicals and stop deterioration. Regarding methods of storage, airtight preservation takes front stage. Tightly fitting lids on glass containers help to stop evaporation, hence reducing alcohol concentration over time. These jars are kept dark and cool, below 65 degrees Fahrenheit to delay any last chemical reactions. Fruit kept alcohol preserved under ideal conditions can stay safe and delicious for up to 5 years. Season and kind of fruit determine the preservation technique. High water content summer berries need stronger alcohol solutions, usually about 30% alcohol. Denser autumn fruits like apples can be kept with less 15 to 20% alcohol concentration. While reducing alcohol consumption, this seasonal change enhances preservation efficiency. Alcohol concentration has to be under close control. While too much can overwhelm the natural taste of the fruit, too little alcohol will not adequately preserve the meal. Most Amish preservers strive for a middle ground, just enough alcohol to avoid spoiling, yet still let the unique character of the preserved food to blossom. These kept fruits provide food all year long and have both cooking and utilitarian uses. Amish groups modify their techniques of preservation to fit their own environment. For instance, folks in apple-growing areas perfect cider-based preservation techniques. Those in places with plenty of wild berries have specific procedures for preserving these delicate fruits with alcohol. This regional concentration produces unique preserved foods reflecting the natural resources of every settlement. For Amish people, the main distinction between alcohol as a preservative and alcohol as a beverage stays obvious. Not leisurely pleasures, alcohol-preserved meals are considered as valuable tools. This point of view stands somewhat differently from current ones, where alcohol is usually kept apart from food preservation. Once I informed a buddy I was researching Amish alcohol preservation, he remarked, "Sounds like they really know how to keep their spirits up during winter." Actually, these age-tested Amish preservation methods are far more than smart replacements for contemporary refrigeration. They are live links to our shared past, showing us that working harmonically with nature's exquisite rhythms and offerings is rather sustainable than depending just on technology development.